For this debate, we have the esteemed philosophers George Berkeley and Immanuel Kant here to debate the question of whether the world is ideal or noumenal. George Berkeley was an Irish philosopher who argued that the external world was composed of ideas and exists only in the minds of perceivers. Immanuel Kant was a German philosopher whose critical philosophy emphasized the distinction between phenomena, or appearances, and noumena, things in themselves. Kant sought to reconcile rationalism and empiricism. Let's begin with Mr. Berkeley.
Thank you, Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you to argue that the world is ideal, consisting only of ideas and perceptions. We perceive objects and the world around us through our senses. However, the very existence of these objects is dependent on being perceived. In other words, to be is to be perceived. If there were no perceivers, there would be no objects at all. Thus, the external world is entirely composed of ideas in the minds of perceivers, and there exists nothing beyond these ideas.
Thank you, Mr. Berkeley. Mr. Kant?
Thank you, Berkeley, and thank you, Richard, for this opportunity to engage in this philosophical discussion. While I respect Berkeley's idealism, I must argue that the world is noumenal rather than ideal. Idealism may offer a coherent perspective, but it overlooks the critical distinction between appearances and things in themselves, what I refer to as noumena. The external world may indeed be dependent on perception, but we cannot dismiss the possibility that there are things beyond our perception which we cannot fully grasp. Our perception is shaped by our senses and mental faculties, and they inherently influence the way we perceive reality. I acknowledge that reality is filtered through our cognitive apparatus, but we cannot claim that the external world is reduced to our subjective experiences alone.
I understand your distinction, Kant, but allow me to respond. You argue for the existence of noumena, but can you provide any evidence or justification for their existence? It seems to me that the very notion of noumena is speculative and beyond the realm of human experience. On the other hand, I propose a straightforward and intuitive explanation. The world exists as ideas perceived by minds.
While I agree that we cannot directly experience noumena, their existence is a necessary postulate to maintain the structure of human cognition and scientific inquiry. Without postulating the existence of things in themselves, we fall into solipsism or subjective idealism, where the entire universe would be nothing but a construct of individual minds. This undermines the very foundation of objective knowledge and the possibility of understanding the regularities and laws governing the world. Furthermore, idealism faces challenges in explaining the persistence and continuity of objects when not perceived. If reality is solely dependent on perception, then what happens to objects when we are not observing them? Do they cease to exist during moments of non-perception? This does not align with our common experience of the world.
I understand your concerns, Kant. However, I propose that the continuity of objects is maintained by the divine perceiver God. According to my philosophical framework, God continuously perceives all objects, providing the ground for their continued existence and coherence. When we, as finite minds, stop perceiving them, God's perception sustains their existence.
While your appeal to God is intriguing, Berkeley, it still leaves unanswered questions. It introduces unnecessary metaphysical assumptions and presupposes a specific theological perspective. As a philosopher, I strive to provide a rational and universal account of reality that does not rely on religious beliefs. Moreover, idealism might lead to skepticism regarding the external world's stability and predictability. It leaves us uncertain about the nature of the world beyond our immediate perception and hinders our ability to conduct empirical investigations and scientific inquiries.
Thank you, gentlemen. Unfortunately, time is limited, and we must conclude our debate here. I want to thank both Mr. Berkeley and Mr. Kant for sharing their perspectives on the nature of reality. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this one. And let us know what you think in the comments.